What should I quilt on this? If I had $1 for every time I'd been asked that question or seen it pop up in a Facebook group with 50 very passionate, very different answers, I'd have enough money to buy another long arm by now. You spend all this time piecing a beautiful quilt top, you square it up, you press the seams, and then you put it in the cupboard. We all know that cupboard, the one with the growing pile of finished quilt tops. It's a classic quilter problem. The issue isn't really a lack of ideas. I'm sure most of us can rattle off 5 quilting designs we're comfortable quilting right now. A stipple, some loops, some straight lines, maybe a simple feather. The real problem is actually figuring out which one of those ideas belongs on this quilt. That quilting paralysis, that fear of spending hours on the wrong design and ruining your quilt, it is real. So today I'm going to share with you the 3 questions I ask myself before I quilt any client quilts, which I've been doing for over 10 years. I've quilted thousands of them. Now, this framework is at the core of what I want to teach you. But if you're looking for some more hands-on help, that's exactly what we do in my membership, the Longarm Lounge. If choosing what to quilt is the bit that stops you in your tracks every time, members can send me a photo of their quilt top and a bit of information, and I'll personally talk through some different options about what you can quilt. We also have lessons, design tutorials, and troubleshooting help. There's a link for a free 7-day trial in the description below if you want to check it out. So let's look at these 3 questions, which are all about finding a design that's right for this quilt right now. So your first and probably most important question is, what is this quilt's job? What is its purpose in the world? Because how a quilt is going to be used should be a really big guiding factor in choosing the design. Let's talk about a few common jobs. First up, a baby quilt. A baby quilt's job is to be loved to death, to be dragged around on the floor, to be thrown in the washing machine 5 times a week because it's been used and loved so much. For a quilt like that, durability is everything. You need a design that holds the quilt together securely, but is not so dense that it turns this lovely, cuddly baby quilt into a stiff board. So for a baby quilt, I'm immediately thinking a soft all-over design, a meander, some simple loops, some wavy lines, a big flower motif, or some geometric boxes for a boy's quilt. These are all fantastic because they will hold the quilt together securely without adding any stiffness. You probably want to skip the micro work or the intricate custom quilting on these kind of quilts. The job here is cuddles and survival, and the quilting needs to support that mission. Now, let's swing to the total opposite of the spectrum. A show quilt has a completely different job description. Its purpose is to hang on the wall and look spectacular. It doesn't need to be cuddly. Its job is to be art. For a quilt like this, you could and probably should pull out all the stops. Challenge yourself. Use the micro designs and the dense fillers to make that applique really pop. Break out the rulers for beautiful secondary designs. On this kind of quilt, the quilting is a primary design element. It's meant to add texture and depth and drama. You're not quilting for cuddles here, you're quilting for jaws on the floor. Finally, let's consider probably the most common job of all, and that's the bed quilt. A quilt for a bed kind of has to be a jack of all trades. It needs to be durable enough for daily use and also for washing, but it's also got to have a nice drape on the bed. For most bed quilts, a balanced all-over design is a great choice, or even a simple custom works really well with these kind of quilts as well. You want to make sure you're distributing the quilting evenly to give the quilt a good drape and feel to it. You're probably looking for a workhorse design here that adds beautiful texture without overpowering the piecing. Think a big paisley or some beautiful big swirls or an all-over spineless feather design. Once you know the quilt's job, the next question is all about aesthetics. What's the quilt's style? What's a quilting design that's going to enhance the piecing rather than fight with it? You want to fit the quilting to the quilt, not the other way around. Using huge generalization here, broadly speaking, your quilt will probably fall into one of 2 camps, and that's traditional or modern. A traditional quilt could be a log cabin, an Irish chain, or a beautiful applique quilt. And when I see a traditional quilt, I think of quilting designs that have absolutely stood the test of time. Feathers are a perfect example. Paisley is another one. Maybe a big all-over crosshatch would work, or even a beautiful Baptist fan. The key is to work with the piecing, just like you wouldn't put beautiful modern art or graffiti on a historic building. Sometimes very angular or very geometric quilting can feel quite jarring on a traditional quilt. Modern quilts are often full of bold colours and angles and lots of negative space. You can definitely lean into these angles by quilting a lot of straight lines, or you can soften all those hard angles by quilting some beautiful spirals and taking advantage of that negative space. Okay, so you know the quilt's job, you know its style. The last question is one that maybe calls for a bit of honesty, and that is, what can I realistically and happily accomplish with the skills and the machine I have right now? Remember, the aim is to get this quilt finished, not back in the cupboard. So many of us get stuck because we see this beautifully quilted, jaw-dropping, custom quilted masterpiece online. We think we have to do that on our quilt, and then maybe we realize we don't know where to start and the quilt goes back in the cupboard. We have to stop doing that. The goal here is a finished quilt. A quilt top is not a quilt until it's quilted. If you're a beginner or you're quilting on a domestic machine with a tiny throat space, then trying to wrestle a king-size quilt and do a beautiful free motion feather is just a recipe for disaster. It's totally okay to choose a simple design. In fact, it's a really smart decision. There are so many beautiful and effective designs that are beginner friendly. Think straight lines, think wavy lines. They are super forgiving and almost impossible to mess up. A simple grid of straight lines is another beautiful option. It's clean, it's modern, and it's totally achievable with a walking foot on your domestic machine or on the long arm. And hear me when I say this, there is absolutely no shame in an all-over meander. The meander is a workhorse for a reason. It gets the job done beautifully. It secures your quilt, it's soft and cuddly, and lets your piecing bit a star. A well-executed simple design is a million times better than a poorly executed, more complicated one. Now, that does not mean you shouldn't be trying to push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. On your next quilt, try a slightly more challenging design. Maybe you try your first free motion swirl, or you grab some rulers and try a fancy border design. Quilting really is a journey, and each new quilt is a chance to practice and try something new. So there it is, the 3 questions you need to ask yourself. What is the quilt's job? What is the quilt's style? And what can I realistically accomplish right now? Tell me in the comments, what kind of quilt is generally hardest to choose a design for? Do you find it's the modern quilt, the traditional quilt, or a baby quilt? I'd love to hear. And if thread troubles usually derail you once you do start quilting, then take a look at my video here, which talks all about what to do when your thread keeps shredding or breaking. I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. I'm releasing new free motion quilting videos every single week. So stay tuned and I'll see you next week.